Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. Well, the Omega CK2998 Limited Edition family is now a set of twins. After giving us our first traditional symmetrically cased straight lug Speedmaster Special Edition in 2012 with the first Omega in space, the big brand from BL started to freestyle in 2016 with the true blue CK2998 that you see on the left. On the right, possibly the most exciting new Omega not called Seamaster for 2018. This is the CK2998 that's attuned a bit more towards a driver's than a flyer's sensibility. Let's start with the veteran and compare and contrast. Dimensionally, they're identical. You can see the watch is 39.7 millimeters in diameter. It features a minimally beveled straight lug case inspired by the 1959 CK2998, which eventually became the first Omega in space with Wally Schirra in 1962. It's also important to note that this case profile does not feature any kind of shear guards or crown guards for the pushers of the lugs, and the pushers themselves are a vintage-style undersized pump pusher design that evokes history. The watch is not a tribute timepiece, nor is its 2018 counterpart. The CK2998 first Omega in Space tribute was that. This one is designed to be its own thing, and very distinctly so. As you can see, the changes start immediately as we work inboard from the case. The tachymeter bezel features a ceramic insert and the tack is fully loomed at night. The crystal is sapphire rather than the traditional thermoplastic used on the Moonwatch, and the dial is distinct. While it does recall history, the combination of colors and modern materials are a step above anything an astronaut of the 60s would have known. You could see a lowered and somewhat downstepped minute and seconds track with applied and cantilevered polished indices and lume in luminova outboard. Moving in, you can see that there is a gloss blue coloration about the dished sub-registers with a white on blue high contrast, and then metal alpha style hands for the sub-registers historically inspired. Alpha style hands at center for hours and minutes, and yet another nod to history, the counterweighted lollipop style seconds hand that is itself loomed. A lot going on this dial. And on the inside of the case, it's the Omega motor we've known and loved for years on the Moonwatch. Caliber 1861, manual wind, 48-hour power reserve, 18 joules, beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour. In this case, water resistant to 50 meters. It is a lateral clutch cam-powered chronograph, or cam-selected chronograph, I should say, that is tank tough, dead-on accurate, and a stalwart of NASA based on the Lamagna 1873 of Bausch. So now we've gotten a sense of the 2016 limited edition of 2,998 pieces. Let's take a look at its 2018 counterpart. I'm not going to call it the successor because both of these watches might have a place in the same collection. Dimensionally, it's exactly identical. I'll show you the watch on the wrist. You can see it sits like its 2016 equivalent. It's easy to wear on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. No problems there. I'll even zoom out a little bit so you can get a better wrist impression of the watch. Easy to wear on a wrist as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference. Of course, the traditional Moonwatch of 42 millimeters, this one all of 39.7. Now moving into the bezel, this is where things start to change. Rather than a tachymeter scale, it is a pulsation scale. So you start the chronograph and you count up to 30 pulsations on your patient's pulse, and you stop the chronograph, and then you read off the scale what the beat per minute rate is. But what you're looking at is black ceramic rather than blue, and instead of luminova, you're looking at white enamel to create these calibrations. Moving into the dial, you'll take a look and see that the layout is the same. The textures and planes are mostly the same with a couple of major changes. First, the sub-registers are gloss black, and the seconds and minutes track is now black likewise. You still have the cantilevered indices hand applied. What's different here is that they are blackened, as are the hands at center. They are blackened for higher contrast against the white center, and this is actually an easier watch to read at a glance than the 2016 version. You'll also note that the alpha style hands for the sub-registers, same shape, are now white varnished to make for better contrast against the base. Instead of the polished metal lollipop style loomed seconds hand, we have a lancet style counterweighted red varnished seconds hand without loom. And you will note that the Omega logo is the same. It's still a vintage Omega logo on both sides, crown and dial, but the Speedmaster logo is now in red rather than black. Another change that's a little bit difficult to express, but I'm going to do my best here. If I can get close, there is a blasted granular finish to this white silver dial that is distinctly rougher in texture and more interesting in detail than the silver white flat matte dial on the 2016 watch. So if you can imagine the Rolex Yachtmaster, the one with the platinum granular dial, or if you can imagine the dial to the gray side of the moon, it's that kind of granular texture, like a very fine grit sandpaper. Internally, this one's identical, and as you can see on the case back, likewise, it's almost impossible to tell these two watches apart, as this is not Omega's Naiad case back from the Planet Ocean family. You'll note that it does not feature the ability to align identically every time. A small consideration though, you'll only see it when it's off the wrist. I'm going to give you a quick wrist shot of each one so you can see them on the same wrist in the same video. Let's try to fine-tune our focus. You can see the watch sits easily on my wrist. If I had to make a call between the two, I'm going to go with the 2016 watch. It just feels more special. From its loom shot to its inventive use of blue to its brave break with the tribute-style watch conventions of the first Omega in space, it was just more original in so many ways. I love the new watch, but I have to say the Panda is a more predictable style. Although blue is hot now, historically the Panda has been endlessly iterated, and it's less distinctively Omega. When I look at this dial, I almost think Rolex exotic singer dial, the Paul Newman. That's the vibe I'm getting here. You decide for yourself. It might be that the Panda ages better over the long term compared to the color of the moment, flavor of the moment, true blue CK2998. But you know what? Just to be sure, why not buy them both? In an ideal world, we'd be double strapped with Omega Speedmasters, not Moonwatches, and delightful for it. And now you can see the loom of the Terrible 2. The CK2998 twins are so distinct by night, you would be rather surprised to discover that they are almost identical dimensionally and mechanically by day. You can see the loomed lollipop seconds of the 2016 watch with its fully loomed tachymetric scale, and you'll note that although the 2018 watch is designed to favor the hour hand over the minute, there is a much more even application of loom on the older watches. You can easily distinguish both the hour hand and the swatch of Luminova on the minute hand. See them by day and decide for yourself on the watch box.